One. Hi. We're so happy you guys are joining us tonight. I'm Hannah Ross. I'm a registered pelvic health physiotherapist and owner of Vital Physiotherapy and Wellness. Helps if I know the name of my clinic. And I'm joined by my very dear friend and extremely knowledgeable colleague, Anita Lambert. She's your holistic health physio. Hi, Anita.
Hi.
So, Anita, it's World Continence Week, and we thought it would be a perfect opportunity to chat about all of our clients and all of our viewers' questions about pee. So this year's theme is continence, no laughing matter. And the truth is, like, I think we all kind of poo-poo it and we joke and we laugh. Oh, haha, I can't do jumping jacks anymore because I pee, whoopsies, But I really think it's important that we have a very frank discussion about this. And so tonight, Anita and I will be answering all of your questions about this very sensitive topic. Like, should you be doing Kegels if you leak? If you leak during certain activities, you have to stop them. And like a whole host of other questions. So I really think that as a society, we sort of do minimize this topic. And we've kind of come to, I mean, certainly a lot of my clients walk in the door and they seem to expect that it's normal for them to just pee a little when they're at the gym. They don't even, they have accepted it as their complete new norm. And this does not have to be the case at all. So I think we're going to provide you with some really great information tonight. We're going to talk about how to optimize your pelvic health. And at the end, we're going to provide all of you, our viewers, with some really great resources. And that will be available to you if you're joining us live or in the replay.
Yeah. And yeah, so for anyone who's just joining us, welcome. Please say hi and let us know where you're from. And please share this. So with your friends, your mom, your sister, your aunts, because this is a lot of common information or common concerns that Hannah and I see with a lot of clients who come in and said, you know what, no one ever told me that this could happen, or exactly, or there's actually something I can do about it versus just living with it or surgery. So please share this. For those of us who don't, those of you who don't know us, so both Hannah and I are both pelvic health physiotherapists. Hannah is the owner of Vital Physiotherapy and Wellness in Toronto, Canada, and I'm the owner of Holistic Health Physiotherapy in Peterborough, Ontario. And we both have worked with hundreds of women to address common bladder concerns. So whether you lose a couple of drops when you're coughing, sneezing, exercising, you don't quite make it to the washroom on time, or you actually lose your full bladder amount. And it's just something that a lot of us think, this is just common. And so we want you to know that this doesn't have to be your new normal. You don't have to accept bladder leakage, and there's actually something you can do about it. So let's jump in.
And that's something is pelvic physio, people.
Yes, yeah. And a lot of research to back up how helpful it can actually be. So our first question, which was a really common question we were asked, is, so what is incontinence? So Hannah, if you want to take that one.
Awesome. Love this one. So incontinence is a loss of pee at any point in time. And it really is, Anita, like, it's a black and white question, right? It's not, I only lose a little bit when I really, really, really have to go to the bathroom and then I cough or sneeze or jump. Or I just have complete loss of control of the day. Like, it's just a yes or it's a no. There are different kinds of incontinence or loss of urine, but if you leak at all, you have incontinence, right? And so why this is so important for us as pelvic health physios is because we work with the muscles of the pelvic floor. And one of the muscles, or a couple of the muscles of the pelvic floor, I should say, are called sphincter muscles. So it's that time again of the night, Anita. Have you brought along your pelvis?
I have. So yeah, we both had enough. Yeah.
So Anita, there are 3 layers of pelvic floor muscles, and this is the outer layer, and that's that inner third layer. I can't actually show you all of the sphincter muscles, but I'm going to show you one of the sphincter muscles that is around your anus. And so if you look here, you can actually see there's a circular muscle around your anus, and there are similar circular muscles around your urethra. And your urethra is where your pee comes out of. And the job of those sphincter muscles is to contract. So like if you imagine this is your sphincter muscle, it's to squeeze and prevent urine from coming out, and relax when you want to go to the bathroom. So if you are not actively releasing those muscles and you're still having leakage, then that is a sign that there's something wrong with these muscles, and it should be addressed by a pelvic health physio. But there are different kinds of incontinence. So there are many women, like we said, who when they cough or sneeze or jump or laugh, when there's a large amount of internal pressure, like a cough is a bearing down, a sneeze is often a bearing down, a jump is a higher amount of pressure on these muscles. If you leak when you do any one of those things, that's called stress incontinence. That's because there's a stressor to your body, and that causes leakage. There's also another kind of incontinence called urge incontinence, and that's when you lose urine when you feel the urge to pee. So our ladies who don't quite make it to the washroom, or we call key in the door syndrome, right? They're just arriving home. They've been shopping the whole day. They've been doing a million things. They're carrying a million groceries. They're like, finally, I get to pee. And they put their key in the door, and then they lose a little bit of urine. That's called urge incontinence. And there's another type, which is called mixed, very creative name, which is a combination of both urge incontinence and stress incontinence. So sometimes when you laugh and cough or sneeze, and sometimes when you arrive home or you arrive in the bathroom, you lose urine. But regardless of what kind of urinary loss you have, it's a sign the pelvic floor muscles are not working properly, specifically those sphincter muscles. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's a good point too, and how kind of when you're talking about like coughing or sneezing, that can be a weakness in the muscle, but also a timing issue, right? So kind of before we land from a jump, before we cough or sneeze, those muscles should come on to close off the sphincter you were talking about.
And that's a reflex, right? It's a reflex that we have that's sometimes lost.
And I tell women all the time that usually that can be something that can be resolved pretty quickly, about kind of learning how to find those muscles, but then correcting the timing. And often women are really surprised of how quickly that actually can disappear.
I mean, it's like all the rest of your muscles. They have to work. They don't just have to be strong. They have to be coordinated and flexible too, right? I feel like I'm a, what's it called? So a record player.
Yeah.
But like, you know, they're broken record. Broken record. Thank you. But I'm a record player. But they're muscles like any other, and they have to work the same way. So which brings us to our next question, Anita. This is a very common misconception, and I think that a lot of our women walk in, they're like, I've been trying this so hard, it's not working. But Anita, so if someone's leaking, that means that they should just Kegel, right?
So that's a common question. A lot of women come in, we actually ask them in their first session, have you done Kegels? Have they worked for you? And most women are like, I've done Kegels forever and they haven't changed anything. Right. So kind of a traditional Kegel is just kind of tightening the pelvic floor muscles. So we kind of quickly will look at the pelvic floor. So they attach from your pubic bones. Mine too. Yeah, your pubic bones in the front to your sit bones, and then all the way to your tailbone. So that whole diamond shaped, even Hannah will show you on her pelvis while I chat. Those muscles. Yeah. So those, exactly. So traditionally a Kegel is just kind of trying to tighten those muscles and release those muscles, which is a really a kind of isolated way of engaging those muscles. And when you think about it, like nothing we do during the day is isolating any muscle, right? So if you pick something up off the floor, you pick your baby up off the floor, you're not just using your bicep muscle, right? You're not just using this guy right here. So to think that just isolating your pelvic floor is enough to stop you from leaking there's probably a few muscles involved, right? But then the other side to it as well is sometimes your pelvic floor can actually be tense or tight. So if you've gone for a massage, they've gotten into muscles, they get into the kind of your trap muscles up here. And you find, oh, these are really sore, right? Well, the same thing can happen with your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor muscles can actually be tense. And if that's the case, you actually want to release those muscles first before you start to strengthen. And Hannah and I talked about this a lot, that sometimes, so if you think of like a bicep curl, right? And if you're already tight and you try to do more Kegels, you're not getting much of a contraction. Whereas if you release that muscle, sometimes the muscle already knows how to contract because it gets that full amount of length that it can actually contract. So sometimes we don't even have to do much strengthening after we release a muscle because the muscle just kind of almost resets and kind of works the way we want it to. But then for some women, we actually do bring strengthening in. So that's kind of the first thing to think about is sometimes Kegels don't work well because either A, you're isolating a muscle and there's more to it, or it could actually be tight and we actually need to release it first. And so getting to that idea of isolating the muscle and why it may not work quite that way is because our deep core canister, our pelvic floor is only one part of it. So kind of our pelvic floor sits at the bottom. Then we have a corset muscle that wraps around our transverse abdominis, our TA, and then our diaphragm, which sits on top, which sits underneath our rib cage. So if you picture like a mason jar or a canister, literally that's what's inside of us in terms of our deep core. So really, we want that whole deep core canister working together. And so even if we take a look at the pelvic floor and the diaphragm, that relationship, and if you've seen Hannah and I chat before, if you've seen us in the clinic, we talk about core breath, but also the piston breath. So piston breath looks at the diaphragm and pelvic floor relationship.
Like do so
when we breathe in, our diaphragm lowers and our pelvic floor lowers. When we breathe out, our diaphragm lifts to get the air out, and so does our pelvic floor. So this idea of like a piston in a car. And so if we can work on initially stacking your ribs where your diaphragm lives and your pelvic floor, or your pelvis where your pelvic floor lives, if we can stack those two, initially that can be a great way to start getting your core canister to work well together. And this idea comes from Julie Weeb. So Julie, thanks so much for creating this awesome. And stay tuned till the end because we have an awesome resource from Julie that we really want to share. And so if we can stack the ribs over the pelvis and then
align them properly, right?
And not to say that you're going to live forever thinking of just stacking your ribs over your pelvis, but often initially to get this canister to work efficiently for you, it can be super helpful. So another kind of trick from Julie Weeb that a lot of women find helpful, because getting that alignment can be tricky to think about in standing, especially if you're used to having your ribs behind your pelvis. So Hannah said she would demo this as I chat about it.
I'll wait it. Okay.
Yeah, so watch in terms of Hannah that she's going to demonstrate. So for some women, we see actually a lot of women, kind of the mom posture is ribs behind your pelvis. So this idea that Hannah is demonstrating very well. So kind of her ribs are behind her pelvis. And and so kind of her tailbone is tucked under.
Stand here for you to see me properly. Okay.
So, so with the tailbone tucked under, it can be kind of a bit trickier for your pelvic floor to work efficiently. But now she's going to go into ribs stacked over the pelvis, just in regular standing. So you can see there, Hannah, if you go to your ribs, put your hand just on your ribs, and then your pelvis. So you can take a look, ribs and then pelvis. See how they're stacked. And for a lot of women, and if you're watching this, I really encourage you stand up if you're at your computer or at your phone and
feel where you're at. Where are you? Where's your ribs relative to your pelvis?
Or go, if you have a long mirror, go beside a mirror and just look to the side. I do this with clients all the time, and it just really clicks when you see it for yourself. But sometimes getting into the position that Hannah's in right now can actually be really tricky. So what Julie Weeb has taught a lot of women, and I find can work really well, is what we call a ski jump. So if you think kind of the Olympic ski jump, right, where they go off.
Tell me if you can see me.
Yep.
I'm turning off my earphones.
So in terms of with that ski jump, if you think the Olympic ski jumpers, right, they're on like an angle. And so if you go into that position when you're standing, what it automatically does is it can help stack your ribs over your pelvis, but you have to picture this on an angle. So your ribs over your pelvis.
Regular stance.
Yeah, and then ski jump. So you're kind of leaning forward from your ankles and you're on a straight line. So still Hannah's ribs over her pelvis, but on an angle. And now her tail is untouched. So her tail isn't tucked under like it was before. So for some women, we actually go into this position and practice some breathing techniques.
And they're like, do we have to live here forever?
No. So the idea is you may initially go there and then eventually you actually back that up. So
now, hello everybody.
Once you're used to practicing in that position and engaging your deep core canister in that position, then you go back to that upright position and it ends up being a lot easier. So that's the idea so sometimes why Kegels may not be right for you. So your pelvic floor, it might be, the muscles might be tense. And seeing a pelvic floor physio, we're able to tell you that from day one, if that's the case, and then how to resolve that. And then 2, if your ribs aren't stacked over your pelvis, that can make it challenging for your deep core canister to work well. And so even what you can do, so doing the ski jump that Hannah just showed you, but then also practicing some rib breaths. And the rib breaths can be helpful to get that piston breath going. So if you place your hands just on the sides of your ribs, and yeah, you can see Hannah a bit better there. So when you're going to inhale, you're going to inhale and think of your rib cage opening like an umbrella. And then as you breathe out through your mouth, you'll feel your rib cage soften. So you want to think of your rib cage like an umbrella as you inhale and then as you exhale through the mouth. So you can practice this in the ribs stacked over the pelvis, whether you're in sitting, or you can try the ski jump as well in standing. Yeah.
And what you'll find is that that breath will be significantly easier. You should get more air in if you're stacked properly, if you're aligned properly. Yeah, so it's always a good idea to see like how easy is that breath, how much air am I getting, and if you change positions, if you're breathing like this, or if you're breathing like this, or if you're breathing like this, you know, if you're in proper alignment, it'll be easier to get that breath and engage all of those 4 muscles together.
Exactly, yeah. So if you take a breath and you notice it's more into your chest or into your belly, stack your ribs over your pelvis, and see if it goes. Excellent. And so for anyone who's joining us, please say hi and let us know any questions you have that you haven't heard the answer to yet, and we'd be happy to answer them for you. So we're going to go into our next question, and this is another common one. So Hannah, do you recommend I stop the activities that cause leaking, or what? Because I need to, and you can fill in the blank. For some women, they need to run, they need to jump, they need to do CrossFit, they need to keep whatever exercise they're doing. So Hannah, what's the answer to that?
What I'll say is, number one, our goal as physiotherapists in general, but especially pelvic health physiotherapists, is to help people achieve their goals. And if somebody is running and leaking, and their goal is to stop leaking while they're running, that is our goal too. Okay, so as a rule, I just dropped my pelvis. As a rule, the answer should be no. Sometimes the answer is yes for now. But, you know, if you're leaking during activity, it's a sign that your body's not functioning optimally for that activity. But it's not always that activity is too much necessarily for your body. It just might be you're not using the optimal strategy for that. So very often, you know, we assume that, okay, I'm leaking while I'm running. My pelvic floor might be too weak for while I'm running, or you know, and like you said, it might be too tight. It might be the pelvic floor itself, and that's usually, you know, when people walk in, that's like they're like, you know, blinders on. That's what they think is going on. But very often, it's just a strategy they're using. So if we watch them run, I'm going to use running for an example because we get that a lot. When somebody's walking and they're running, very often when you watch them run, you see them sucking in their belly and gripping their abs while they're running. And what that does is those core 4 muscles, the diaphragm, the pelvic floor, the inner abs, and the inner back muscles, actually can't work if you're squishing them all day, every day. Like there's no muscle in your body that should actually be on nonstop. And so sometimes it is just as simple as allowing your belly to loosen and stop gripping, and all of a sudden women stop leaking. Another very, very common thing that we see is breath holding. And again, if we have these 4 muscles that work together, and your diaphragm, which is, your breathing muscle, is one of them, if you're not breathing, it's not working. So sometimes it's just as simple as make sure you breathe while you're exercising. It sounds crazy, but I can't tell you how often we see that. And so what I would say is it's not that simple. It's not as simple as stop doing the exercise that causes leaking. And don't not go to see your physio because you think that that's what they're going to tell you. Work with somebody, either a physio or a trainer who is trained in this area, and they will help you with your personal, the way that your body works, and help you find the strategy that works best for you. And I'm just going to stop for a second. Lauren just sent us a message here.
Hi, Lauren.
So she wants to know how long after childbirth can you know that there's a true problem rather than just a normal healing? How long does it really take your body to adjust postpartum? Lauren, you're asking a very good question, actually. You want to answer that one?
It's one of those things, it depends. And I know that's the answer that not everyone wants to hear, but it's true. Everyone's different. So it depends kind of on the birth, kind of the birth that you had, but also how you're recovering too. So things like episiotomy, or if you've had any tearing, that can affect how you're recovering. If you've had a cesarean birth, just because of kind of the tissue that they've gone through for that, as well as in your recovery there. So it's hard to see how long it'll take. And really that first year postpartum, your body is healing. But then also the other side of it is if you're nursing, that also affects things, because something we haven't talked much about tonight is also hormones, and hormones can play a role with how you're healing as well. So it's not the most kind of specific answer, but if you're wondering and you do have a pelvic physio in your area, definitely even going in kind of at that 7-week mark. So after your senior care provider at 6 weeks, to even just check in, just even going for an assessment, just to find out how your pelvic floor and core is healing and working. And your pelvic health physio should be able to put together a nice kind of guide for you in terms of your specific recovery needs.
Right. And what I would say is also it depends on how many other kids have you had. With every one of my kids, it took a little bit longer. But I know that we say that it almost takes about 18 months for your body to come, your hormone levels, everything to totally sort of level off. So sorry, Lauren.
And that's also to say too, that even though Hannah and I both have said, 12 months, 18 months, it's not that you're not going to be doing anything for 12 to 18 months. No. We guarantee you, we want you to be able to do as much exercise that your body can handle while you're restoring your core. So even let's say you come in and you went back to running after giving birth and you're leaking while you're running. Yeah, maybe it may mean taking a step back from the running, getting that core canister working, but your physio should be giving you other exercise and that you enjoy doing. That's my big thing. And I know Hannah's the same. Like, I'm not going to tell someone to go swim or go do weights or anything if that's not something you love to do. So they should find out what you love to do, what's causing issues, and give you as much that you can do that's not compromising your core canister, but building you back to those goals.
Exactly. And I think that's the key to treatment all the time is helping, is really getting your clients back to their level of preferred, exercise and whatever performance that they want to, performance level they want to be at. So, Anita, I'm going to ask you a totally different question now. Yeah. And this is something my mom and I joke about a lot. is there an optimal number of times to pee in the day?
Yes, yeah. And it's funny because I ask this to women all the time on their first appointment, and they kind of look at me and they're like, I've never thought about how many times I actually go pee. And so, I mean, there's a lot of dependence again on that, but it's kind of roughly every 2 to 3 hours throughout the day. Right. So around 6 to 8 times, but depends what you're drinking. And how you're drinking. And like if you're guzzling a liter of water and then going about your day, well, yeah, you'll probably have to go a little bit sooner versus if you were sipping it throughout your day. Or if you're drinking alcohol or kind of caffeine like coffee, sometimes for some women that goes through them a lot of different things depend, but roughly about every 2 to 3 hours. And if you're going more than that, and maybe that's something we call frequency, so that you're going often. So some women come in and see Hannah and I and say, you know what, I go like twice an hour. And that was even before having children. Yeah.
That's what we talk about. Like, you know, I know every bathroom, every place that I go to, I go to the mall. I know where every bathroom is, every coffee shop along the way, wherever they're going, so that they can be there.
Exactly. And oftentimes it ends up being, and if you're watching this may sound really familiar, is going to the washroom just in case.
We call that just in casing.
Yeah. And it starts as kids, right? When I talk to women about this, they're like, oh my gosh, I do this with my children, right? Totally. So this idea, before you go in the car, does anyone have to go pee? Before we get home, does anyone, or before we leave the house, that kind of thing.
We're going to leave the house, everybody pee.
Yeah. So it starts in childhood, and then it generally continues, and then can actually increase for a lot of women during pregnancy and afterwards. So you'll notice there's a big kind of mind-body connection. So let's say you're watching this and you had to go pee right now, but there was a fire in the hallway, wherever you are. If you're at home, there's a fire upstairs. The idea is you would not have to go pee anymore. Your brain would prioritize and say, okay, you need to get out of the house safely. That's the new priority. So it's pretty amazing how all of a sudden you just had to go pee really bad, and then all of a sudden you don't have to anymore. So it can be that actually simple to retrain that idea of frequencies. So feeling like you have to go to the bathroom all the time. So I'll tell a lot of women, instead of crossing your legs, holding the wall, a lot of women say that's common, right? When you get this, like, you gotta go. And that's urgency too. We'll talk a bit about that. But if you feel like you have to go and you just went within the hour, try to distract your brain. So if you're somewhere, check your email on your phone, go on social media, do something at work, do something with your children, something to distract your brain, and see if that urge goes away, until you really need to go again. So that's a really simple thing that you can try. And you'd be surprised about how quickly that actually can
One of my favorite things to treat, because it goes away so quickly.
It goes away pretty fast, and it can be that simple. So even initially, just taking a day or two and just writing down the times during the day that you go to the washroom, and have that as a benchmark. And then, try this out for a week or so, and then do it again. You'll probably notice that you'll be going to the washroom a lot less, and it's a lot nicer that you don't have to spend that energy of knowing where is every bathroom, right?
Like you get your life back because you're not spending your whole day looking for bathrooms.
Exactly. So that idea of frequency, to bring that down, if you kind of went within the last half an hour, see if you can prolong that, distracting your brain. And the other thing is urgency. So Hannah and I talked about kind of that rushing to the washroom, which is common as well. And so with that, oftentimes, we kind of cross our legs, brace ourselves, to try to get to the bathroom without leaking. So another simple thing you can try is actually deep breathing. So even the rib breath that we did at the start, doing that just to actually relax the body. Because if you get that urgency and you're starting to tense, it's just not going to allow your pelvic floor even to hold to get you to the washroom. So even doing some deep breaths, try to relax everything. And then the self-talk I tell women to use, and it works really well, is literally, you can say this out loud, but you really don't have to. You can keep it in your head, just saying, I'm not going to go pee till I'm sitting on the toilet, pants around my ankles. And you repeat that over and over and over in your head. Because what happens with the urgency, right? And Hannah, you probably see this with a lot of clients. It happens when you get home, the key in the door that Hannah talked about. And literally you get home and your brain goes, all right, well, you're home, so you can go pee, right?
It goes, I gotta pee. And they're like, boom, 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 boom. Like they gotta go, they get like all revved up, and then
And the thing is, yeah, and you get home and you put the key in the door and you're technically home. So your brain is like, okay, we'll go ahead, but you're not on the toilet. And the same thing, some women get it, they're fine until they get to the washroom, but then they're not sitting down. So using that self-talk and the deep breathing, again, can work really quickly to resolve that. So you're just saying that over and over in your head, and it'll help you get there. And over time, then you're not getting that rushing type feeling. So I encourage you to try both of those.
Slowing down, I think. Slowing down a lot. Just walking slower to the bathroom while you're saying these things to yourself instead of racing.
Breathing. Yes. Yeah. So those two things are just kind of the mind-body connection. They're not even necessarily to do with strengthening or releasing your pelvic floor. Right. But yeah, so they can work fairly quickly.
Awesome. I love it. So we had a couple of resources that we wanted to give you guys. And Anita touched upon one already. So one of them was Julie Weave's website. Julie Weave is a women's health physio out of the States. Fabulous lady, amazing resources, brilliant information. Anita and I use it all the time, and she has some really great resources that you can see that are really easy to understand. I'm going to put her website just in the comment section under our this broadcast. Another really terrific resource is the Canadian Incontinence Foundation. And they just have some really great resources all about, incontinence, about some pelvic pain resources. It's just a really great website filled with information. I'll put that there as well. And the other website, which we haven't put on, Anita, on the past couple of chats that we've had, is Pelvic Health Solutions. So for those of you who are watching within Canada, Pelvic Health Solutions is the company that trains all the pelvic health physios here. And if you go onto their website, they have also just terrific resources and information. If you have questions, instead of going to Google, go to this website and look it up. Is peeing a little bit normal? As you watch this, but it's really, really useful. And so we'll put that on as well. And the other thing that Pelvic Health Solutions has on the website is a list of all the pelvic health physios in Canada. And they're listed by region and by name. And so if you do not live in Toronto and you do not live in Peterborough, you can definitely check out Pelvic Health Solutions and find a pelvic health physiotherapist who lives near you.
Yeah, no, it's a really great resource. So if anyone still has questions, feel free to leave them below. Let us know, and we'll still catch them before the end of the live broadcast. And if you're watching the replay, make sure you still leave questions or comments, because Hannah and I will definitely get to them afterwards.
So Anita, Brandy does have a quick question. She says, so going fewer times strengthens your muscles? Is that what you mean? By stopping to not peeing quite as frequently, by trying to hold off peeing, are we saying that your muscles are getting stronger?
Sort of. It can be.
It's more of a relationship, I think.
Yeah, right? Because what happens is when we go pee, our bladder is a muscle, and so it pumps and our pelvic floor relaxes. And during the day, when we're not going pee, our pelvic floor is working and our bladder is relaxed. So that idea of that relationship, that just getting that relationship to work the best to get us to the washroom without going too often and without running to the washroom. So it can, in a way, help to strengthen them, but it's more about that mind-body connection with using the washroom.
Totally. And if anybody has any other questions, not necessarily during the live broadcast, Anita and I are available and happy to answer them as well.
And so Hannah and I are going to be back so every other Monday, as usual, to talk about different pelvic health topics, whether related to prenatal or postpartum times of life. And so our next one's actually going to be about diastasis or ab separation.
We're very excited.
Yes. And so this is kind of a really common question a lot of women have, and a lot of women don't even know about this. So it can, it's very common in pregnancy, especially in the third trimester, and then as well healing afterwards. So we're going to be talking about the common questions and answers related to that in 2 weeks. And so in terms of, be sure, don't miss out. And so Hannah, how can people find you or contact you online?
So you can find me on Facebook, Vital Physiotherapy and Wellness. You can find us on Instagram at Vital Physiotherapy and Wellness. Or you can email us, info@vitalphysiotherapyandwellness.com. And Anita, how can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me, so my website, holistichealthphysio.com, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at Holistic Health Physio, and Twitter, holistic_physio.
Awesome. And if you haven't already, please find us on Facebook, like the Vital Physiotherapy and Wellness page, like the Holistic Health Physio page, and follow us, because we very genuinely try to educate and provide amazing, up-to-date public health information. And please join us for our next Facebook Live. Find out everything that you need to know about abdominal separation. And as always, Anita, such a pleasure.
Yes, you too.
Most people don't know this, but we actually just use this as an opportunity to hang out. Always fun. And we thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Anita.
Yes. Thanks, Hannah.
Have a good night, guys.